بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Ustaz.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Okay, Ustaz, begin with a realistic scenario question.
Okay.
Example. Okay, I and my friends start, example, si Fulan start a chat. Then my friend, they mention pasal si Fulan, he start backbiting. So how do I go about it? Do replying him in my
Let's
position?
say if he's your close friend, then you can actually just tell them like, it's better for us not to talk about others. If it's really your close friend, because you know that by saying that maybe you will not like hurt both of them. Then you can tell them frankly lah. Just say, kita jangan cakap pasal orang tau ni. Kalau kita cakap pasal orang ni, consider mengumpat tau. Nanti tanggung demi dosa, betul lah. Tapi kalau katakan they are elderly than you, maybe your mother and your auntie, for example. So how you want to tegur them, right? Yes. If let's say if you can, alhamdulillah. If you are in that environment that you can tegur, you tegur lah. But if you cannot tegur, then maybe you can doa for them in your heart. Okay. That's the best you can do. Right? It's always that. When it comes to dakwah, is first you have to start with doa. Because Rasulullah SAW said, right, 3 cara, right? Kalau you ada kuasa, then you can cegah dengan tangan. Cegah dengan tangan doesn't mean use your hand, means you have the power. You can, for example, if your anak mengumpat, what you can do? You can straight away tell them, jangan cakap pasal orang, tak baik, because it's your anak, right? But if let's say you cannot with your hand, because you don't have the power, then you can do what? With your tongue. If cannot with your tongue, then at least you have to have the hatred of that thing in your heart. So not only hatred, actually what you can do is make doa. Ya Allah, kan, kalau boleh kau berilah mereka taufik supaya mereka tak cakap pasal orang. Or maybe if you really cannot also, you have to be away from that place lah. That means you bring yourself away.
Thank you, Ustaz.
Okay, Ustaz.
Yeah.
My question is, let's say now in the age of social media, then when we see scholars ada lecture ke, then kat comments nanti they say this scholar is not good, this scholar is deviant. So does that qualify as backbiting when we put comment online, or even though our name is not known? Does that mean
that means we talk about the scholars?
We talk about scholars, like talk bad about scholars, even though our level is not their level yet.
Because actually we shouldn't talk about someone that we do not know, because how close we are with that scholar. Berapa dekat dia kita dengan orang tu kan. Macam this is what is happening, what? People talking about the scholars. Okay, for example now, if let's say we hold on to we are pro to a particular scholars lah, for example. Right? But you must understand, there are also people who are not pro to our scholars. They also can talk bad about our scholars, what? Like how we talk bad about other people's scholars, they also can talk bad about the scholars that we like. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, these two scholars, they are groups who talk bad about them. So that means, is there any perfect scholars then? There's no perfect scholars. You know, get the scenario. So what you must do? Don't talk bad about scholars. In fact, don't talk bad about people also. Especially when it comes to social media. If we feel that person is bad, why are we here wasting our time talking bad about him? We should go and read the Quran or go and learn what? At least make ourselves to become scholar lah. He already made his way to be a scholar, and here we are talking bad about him. Are we a scholar or not? We also not a scholar. So we are just wasting our time. If we are going to social media to talk bad about others, I feel that we are really wasting our time. That means we really got nothing better to do. Because like what I said, scholars sometimes they have reasons for doing it. So let's another scholar handle another scholar. We don't go and talk bad, criticize, be involved in that. That's what I hold on to lah. Yes.
I want to add on to the question. So let's say somebody comment, and let's say not backbiting, saying bad about a scholar. They say they have a misconception of a certain scholar.
Okay.
Then the understanding is not right. Is there any value for us to comment and to clarify things, or we shouldn't even start because once you start to comment, then if the thread becomes more popular, then it attracts even more people, and the trend may go out of hand lah. So do you mean like, how do you say? Do you mean that we should just stay off comments in general?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I feel we should just stay off comments in general lah. That's even for me also. If you ask me so, normally first thing is that we should only take knowledge from the scholar that we have yakin on. If let's say we have doubts on any scholars, we shouldn't take knowledge from that scholars. Okay, and we shouldn't waste our time still watching the scholars, and at the same time we have bad comments on the scholars. I mean, we shouldn't waste our time like that lah. Unless if we really want to find the truth, maybe we want to learn from more scholars, just for us to compare within one scholar and another scholar. Okay, that's different lah. But if we really have the yakin that okay, this is a scholar that I really have the yakin that I want to take my knowledge from, then we learn from that scholar. And then if we really know that we know that this scholar maybe is not teaching in the proper way, or maybe he got kind of funny ideology, then we should stay away from him. But we must not be involved, like watching him, and then after that people both then start commenting on that scholars. We should not be involved in that, because there are so many beneficial things that we can do. Ada banyak benda yang lain kan. Pasal kalau Ana sendiri pun hantar tanya, Ana pun tak akan buang masa Ana masuk dalam mana-mana punya YouTube ke Facebook ke apa-apa kan, just to check. I feel that is really a waste of time. In fact, it can also confuse people also, because kita check, they check kan. It's a waste of time.
Ustaz, I think on the previous before Ishad tadi, maybe I talk on the topic about mengumpat bila ada keperluan kan. Tapi now that I think about it, I think kita still have to make the decision. Macam, is it wise to just stay quiet and biarkan dorang punya urusan dengan Allah in certain cases? And also there might be times where kita just macam kirakan orang Inggeris kata warn the whole town lah. So yeah, so I think that is bila kita nak buat sesuatu, nak kena ada ikhlas dengan hikmah lah, basically. So would you like to expand on that thought?
Okay, that means your question is, should we this is about mengumpat lah.
So bila kita nak buka aib orang,
Yes.
I think now that I'm processing it, kita rasa macam bila kita nak buka aib orang, kita perlu ada ikhlas dengan hikmah.
Yes.
Adakah will it be beneficial for this person kalau tu, atau kita one-on-one before we make it public?
Depends on the level of harm that the person may bring. If the level of harm that the person may bring is just for himself, then we should just talk to him and advise him. But if the level of the harm that is going to cause is maybe to the whole community, then we have to warn the whole community. Right? Maybe we should come tell him first. Then after that, if we cannot get to him, we should warn the whole community. It's all depend on the level of harm that person can cause. Sama juga macam contohnya kalau kita, like what you say just now, right? Should we just keep quiet and don't tell? Depends. If let's say it doesn't have got anything to do with us or our family, and this is something where is general, then maybe if we feel that we do not have the power, or maybe who are we, maybe our words does not carry any weight, then we should leave it to authority, which maybe their words has power. We should not be involved. Tapi kalau katakan the matters maybe will do harm to us or do harm to our family, then we need to protect our family. Then if that's the case, then we need to voice out, or we need to tell our children, our family member, our neighbours against people who maybe can cause harm to us. Jadi kalau macam itu, maknanya itu consider mengumpat yang dibolehkan lah. Pasal benda tu memang akan memudaratkan kita. Tapi kalau katakan benda ni benda yang general, yang mana kalau kita voice out pun doesn't make any difference, right? So maybe the authority ataupun orang yang berkuasa yang kena handle benda tu. So all this depends on the level of harm, our situation, whether we can say or not, we cannot say or not. All this depends. Because if let's say sometimes certain things when it doesn't concern us, it's better to stay away from it. Don't get involved. If it doesn't concern us, don't get involved. Because for example, everyone got a responsibility. Macam contoh let's say give you a scenario, macam we know that there's a lot of crimes happening, right? But should we all of us become police? No, right? What you must do, maybe we can inform the police lah. If you know there's a crime happening, but we don't act like police, because not police. We cannot just go to him and say police, cannot. Or we cannot just stop him because maybe he may harm us or the person may harm. So what we need to do, we just report to the person in charge, to the authority. Same thing. Just for example, if you see a scholars, if you talk back, kalau katakan you see a scholars who is deviant, what you must do? You must go to tell another scholar, which you feel that he's upon the right path, so that scholar will make the effort. So all follows the label. Anzilun nasa fi manazilahum. That means we will treat people according to their status. We don't get involved. Just imagine scholars, but then we are chit-chatting, we are talking about this scholar is tak betul and this and that. I think that's not fair lah. Yeah. Because it's really a waste of time lah. I mean, there's so many things that we can do actually in our life. Why are we worrying? Right?
My next question macam, I don't know whether it's related to lisan and tongue and speech
Okay.
but I've a sizable amount of people that I talk to macam they say like, wow, all these ustad when they preach something they ajar benda, do they really follow or not? Like, do they really walk the talk
Do they really practice?
Do they really practice not? But I'm of the position whereby, and I need your opinion lah, I'm of the position whereby the message is still true apa. Like whatever they say is true, but the person that preaches it macam although he or she may not practice it, you can still take the ajaran and practice it in your own life because in the end that person is still a human being, right? But what is the how do I reply to this kind of this type of responses lah? Macam they keep thinking like ustaz need to be perfect, like.
I mean, that is wrong lah. I mean, no one is perfect, right?
Yeah lah, but whatever, or maybe like whatever they preach, they jolly well, do it. If they don't really do it, or if they know that ustaz never do it, then he shouldn't be preaching like that.
Preaching lah. So that means what they are trying to say that you may have to make sure that you practice then you preach lah.
Or like don't be a hypocrite lah, something like that. Like, is it?
But I feel that we cannot judge anyone lah. I feel if I meet group of people like this one I'm going to tell them. I feel that we cannot judge anyone, right? Because he's doing his job, he's conveying the truth, he's going the message, right? Whether he practice or it's not his practice, we are here not to check on his amal. We are here to check on our amal. Why we are busy checking him whether he practice or not? Correct or not? Because maybe with what intention he convey. Maybe he's conveying it because yes, he knows that he have not practiced it. That's the reason why he convey, so that he will get the strength to practice. We do not know with what intention he convey, right? But here we are checking on his amal. Then he cakap bila tak amal, right? So that means we are more finding faults lah. Instead of listening to what that he's going to convey and make the intention to convey what he's going to convey. Because if he convey is what Allah wants and what the Prophet wants, I think that's the most important thing. Whether he practice or he don't practice, that is between him and Allah. And then this doesn't only go to the scholars, even to our parents also. Just imagine, mak tak amal, bapa tak amal, berapa orang nak amal? Can we say that to our parents? And this is scholars, scholars who convey Quran and Sunnah, and then we say that you say only but you tak practice. Who are we to go and judge him whether he practice or not? He do his job by conveying. That's really good already, right? So actually basically normally all these comments or these words it come from people with dirty hearts . Pasal kalau orang hati dia bersih, dia akan nampak semua benda baik. Kalau orang yang hati dia bersih, dia akan nampak semua benda baik. Tapi kalau orang tu hati dia tak baik, semua benda dia nampak tak baik. That's why Rasulullah perfect.
Perfect manners.
We can say Rasulullah is the best it's perfect but there are still people finding fault to him. Yes. Why? Because hati diorang tak baik. Pasal hati diorang tak baik, jadi diorang nampak Nabi pun tak baik. Pasal hati diorang tak baik. Tapi kalau cuma hati diorang baik, pasti dia akan nampak Nabi tu baik. It all go back to individual. So that's why we see that we can never please anyone. We can never please anyone. Who is supposed to please is Allah, not anyone. This is what I hold on to lah. I mean, this is maybe what I'm saying what I feel that I'm holding on to. I may be wrong. You don't need to follow whatever I'm saying, right? Because I did not quote any Quran or saying, but this is me lah.
Ustaz, apa tu? Does Islam allow free speech?
Yeah.
And secondly, like if someone say curse the Prophet or curse Allah, like how should we respond?
Person who curse Prophet and Allah.
Yeah, like curse online or they curse in front of us.
If they curse online, we shouldn't say anything. Because online means are they cursing in front of us, or there's so many people online also? Why we go and involve ourselves? It's online. Just like, for example, you watch a movie. Do you speak to the person in the movie? No, right? I mean, it's online, what? I mean, everybody is watching, what? Everybody. So why must we waste our time and get involved and get ourselves sensitive about that? Unless if the person is really in front of us, that's different. If a person is really in front of us, maybe he cursed the Prophet or he cursed Allah SWT, right? Then we must know lah why. Is he sane or not? Or he's insane? If let's say he's a person with sound mind, then you must tell him, you see, why you're doing this? You must know the problem first, why? Right? Not doesn't mean that, okay, he cursed Allah, he cursed Messenger, straight away we can harm him and things like that. Of course not, right? We must know why, we must tell ourselves, why is he in this situation? Because it's not normal, what? Especially if he's a Muslim. If he's a Muslim, if he curse Allah and the Messenger, surely it's not normal for a Muslim to curse, right? If let's say if he's a non-Muslim, for example, one non-Muslim, for example now, we are living in Singapore, for example. One non-Muslim come to you and curse Allah and Rasul, one non-Muslim. And there's a lot of more non-Muslim who doesn't do that. So that means you are comparing this person with the rest, a lot of non-Muslim. So that means this non-Muslim, there's something wrong with him. Maybe there's something which forced him to do that. So you must know what's the problem. Yeah. Because we must not, there's not right for us to, firstly, what do you call it? Untuk membalas satu kejahatan dengan kejahatan. Benda yang dia buat tu benda yang tak baik, habis kita pun tak dibalas dengan benda yang tak baik apa. Person do benda yang tak baik, kita kena fikir apa dia buat tak baik ni. If not, it will never, especially kalau dia seorang yang jahil kan. Dia seorang jahil, his ignorance. And then also when we reply back, we also reply with ignorance also. So that doesn't solve the problem. And there's always another person to watch us also. Kita katakan satu orang akan tengok kan, another person who watch both us, they will realize that Danny pun tak betul, Danny pun tak betul juga. Both tak betul. Danny dah lah tak betul, tapi Danny pula dia handle situation, dia pun handle situation pun tak betul juga. Actually, all these things we will learn bila tau. These things all we will learn when we spend our time, sacrifice a bit of our time to do dakwah. Pasal bila kita start buat dakwah, kita start ajak orang kepada Allah, kita ajak orang kepada kebaikan kan, definitely we need to humble ourselves. Definitely we need to humble, right? Because we know we are doing it for Allah, right? We need to humble. So Allah SWT will give us the strength for us to be patient with people. Because what we want is the pleasure of Allah SWT. We do not want people to please us whatsoever. So slowly these things will come lah. Benda ni akan datang. Allah Allah, maybe can ask Abang Rauf also, Haji Rauf, ada apa-apa?
Ustaz, ni tentang berdakwah.
Yes.
Macam mana nak dakwah keluarga dan bukan keluarga bila diorang ingkar daripada perintah Allah? Macam mana nak istiqomahkan kesabaran tu bila kita tak mengharapkan perubahan diorang?
Okay, first is, again, when you talk about dakwah, the most important thing is doa. This is the first important thing, because this one we cannot do dakwah without doa. Okay, because doa is basically is for us to get ourselves connected with Allah, and at the same time also to ask Allah for help, like trying to get others also connected with Allah juga. That means in our doa kita minta Allah bantu kita. Kedua, kita kata, ya Allah, Kau berilah taufik kepada si fulan. Aku insya-Allah ya Allah kau ajarkan aku ni macam mana cara aku nak sampaikan. So that means that is basically you asking Allah for help lah, the doa. Secondly, our intention we must correct. Why we do the dakwah? Because we do the dakwah not to change people. We do the dakwah to rectify ourselves. Tapi kalau kita buat dakwah, kita nak ubahkan orang, kita akan penat. We'll get tired. We get angry, we get frustrated, and then we leave the dakwah also. Because we feel that dakwah is for others. But actually dakwah is not for others. Dakwah is for who? For us. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu. Allah say just now, right? Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida yusli lakum a'malakum. Allah never say that Allah will rectify them. Allah never say yusli lahum a'malahum. But Allah say yusli lakum a'malakum. Allah SWT will rectify your amal. Why? Because you're saying the truth. You're saying the word of truth. So demi Islam adalah untuk diri kita. But if we do dakwah to correct others, we cannot do that. Because if they don't want to change, can we change them? If they don't want to change also, Allah put a condition. Allah only change those who want to change themselves. If they don't want to change, Allah also will not change them. So how are we supposed to change them? We cannot change them. Kita akan boleh ubahkan orang yang nak ubah diri sendiri. So what we need to do? We need to tell them like whatever just now I explained to Brother Imran kan. We need to tell them about the virtues. Kelebihan-kelebihan amal. Because some people, mostly people they know. If you are saying you want to do dakwah to Muslim, I can say that every Muslim know that solat is wajib. Every Muslim know that all the good deeds. But why they do not have the strength to do? Because their iman is weak. Masa iman dia lemah. So what we need to do? We must talk to them about the virtues. Kelebihan-kelebihan amal. Right. Today people know the virtues of dunia. So that's why they're willing to give their time, sacrifice, everything. But today people do not know the virtues of akhirat. The virtues of amal. Or maybe to some people, maybe after giving them so many virtues, especially if they are close to us, right? After giving them so many virtues, mungkin tak jalan. Maybe once a while we also can give them some warning lah. Which Allah said, right? Kalau kita buat gini kalau kita curi Allah SWT macam gini, Allah SWT buat macam gini. You know, like all the kata orang tu, dia punya amaran-amaran yang Allah berilah. Kalau kita kufur pada Allah kan Allah kata, kalau kita kufur, azab Allah sangat pedih. But normally we will give more motivation than warnings lah. Normally lah. But if let's say we have reached a certain level, we tahu lah, dia ni memang aku kalau beri dia kelebihan tak jalan kan. Sekali-sekali aku kena kasih dia apa? Aku kena kasih dia warning. Supaya dia takut pada Allah SWT. If let's say maybe tak jalan juga, kasih dia kelebihan pun tak jalan, kasih dia warning pun tak jalan. So what you must do? We must please. We must bring them to do the effort. Kita kena ajak dia buat usaha ni. Buat usaha dakwah ni. Dia kena buat usaha dakwah. So that's the reason why we do the effort of dakwah is, the effort of dakwah is not to change people. The effort of dakwah is actually to bring people so that they realize that they also must do dakwah. That they also must speak the words of truth. Then only they get rectified. Because the one who can rectify us is Allah. Nobody can change us. But how to spark inside our heart the interest that we want to change. We must have that spark that I want to change. Then we do the effort. Then after that we doa to Allah. Then Allah will change us. But kalau tu niat nak berubah pun tak ada, macam mana? Tak boleh berubah. And this of course, whatever I tell you, whatever I said, you don't take everything 100%. This I'm telling you through my experience, to the little knowledge that I have, which I'm still holding on to it. Yeah. Dakwah like Jiroy say, right? If today there's no one come to the mosque, should we azan or we stop azan? Still azan. Tak ada orang datang masjid pun tetap azan dia kena jalan terus. But once azan stop, what will happen if azan stop? No one come to the mosque, and then azan also stop, what will happen? Then means dakwah already died lah. So people will not know that this is the mosque also. Tak ada azan. But if there's an azan, at least you know, there's a mosque. There's a Muslim here because there's azan. And azan is the complete dakwah. Dawati tamma is dakwah. Azan is the best dakwah. Because if you understand the meaning of the azan, there is a complete dakwah. Means first is syahadatain, and after that is solat. Right. Akidah is the syahadatain, solat is the amal. Right. So it's very important. So that's the reason why we have to correct our intention. And like dakwah is for ourselves. Dakwah is for the da'i. Dakwah adalah untuk kita. Is for the da'i. And Allah himself do dakwah. Allahu yad'u ila daris salam. Allah himself invite others towards Allah. It's very important. So intention lah. Important is intention.
Nampak yang muka tak?
Nampak? Dakwah is intention. That's very important. Okay.
Dia block your janggut.
Oh, ini blog okay. Ya, ini ada question?
Ustaz,
Tafadhal ya akhi, silakan. Ini kita tengah bincang-bincang, kita tengah muzakarah macam mana kita nak baiki diri kita, amal kita. Silakan. Yes.
So why Imam Shafi'i say Surah Al-Asr is like is enough if no other surah is brought down?
Imam Shafi'i. Oh, you mean the saying of Imam Shafi'i
about
rahimahullah
Al-Asr,
ta'ala.
about Surah Al-Asr. How can we macam use that for our dakwah techniques if you only have a short time to speak to people?
Okay, so Imam Shafi'i kata law ma anzalallahu hujjatan ala khalqihi illa hadhihi surah lakafathum. Jadi ini adalah perkataan Imam Syafi'i berkaitan dengan surah Al-Asr. Imam Syafi'i kata sekiranya seandainya Allah SWT tidak turunkan apa-apa surah kecuali surah ini, maka telah mencukupi bagi mereka. Jadi bagi mereka di sini berarti bagi mereka yang membaca surah Al-Asr. Pasal di dalam surah Al-Asr Allah SWT berfirman, ba'da'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim, bismillahirrahmanirrahim, wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus solihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Jadi dalam surah Al-Asr Allah SWT bersumpah demi masa. Allah kata demi masa, sesungguhnya semua manusia berada di dalam kerugian kecuali orang-orang yang beriman, mengerjakan amal soleh, berpesan-pesan dengan kebenaran dan berpesan-pesan dengan kesabaran. Jadi di dalam surah ini yang mana Imam Syafi'i kata barang siapa kalau sekiranya Allah SWT tidak turun surah yang lain kecuali surah ini telah mencukupi bagi mereka, adalah mereka yang mana yang berakal waras, mereka yang mana akal dia waras, akal dia sihat, dan dia membaca surah ini dan dia mengetahui makna surah ini dan dia juga merenungkan makna-makna yang terkandung di dalam surah ini. Berarti pertama dia beriman, dan seseorang itu tidak mungkin dapat beriman kepada Allah kecuali dengan ilmu. Berarti dia kena mempelajari apa tu iman, apa yang wajib ke atas dia mengimani, dan setelah itu beramal dengan apa yang dia belajar itu. Setelah itu dia berpesan-pesan dengan kebenaran dan berpesan-pesan dengan kesabaran. Jadi seorang yang mana bila dia baca surah ini, dia faham erti ataupun makna dalam surah ini, dia mentadabur, dia merenungkan dan dia mengamalkan, maka sudah cukup bagi mereka ini untuk dapat selamatkan diri dia daripada kerugian. Itu maksud Imam Syafi'i. Bukan berarti Imam Syafi'i ini surah-surah yang lain ni tidak perlu, tidak. Tapi surah ini je, kalau betul-betul kita baca, kita faham makna dia, kita amalkan, dah cukup untuk menyelamatkan kita daripada kerugian. Maksudnya gitu. Berarti beriman, tidak mungkin seseorang itu dapat beriman kecuali dengan mempelajari, dengan ilmu. Lepas tu kalau dia ada ilmu, dia tak amalkan pun dia masih rugi lagi. Berarti dia kena mengamalkan apa yang dia tahu. Dia kena mengamalkan ilmu dia. Dan kalau dia dah amalkan pun masih lagi rugi. Pasal apa? Dia tak menyampaikan ilmu itu. Jadi dia kena sampaikan. Dan kalau dia sampaikan pun dia masih rugi kalau dia tidak bersabar. Berarti dia tidak istiqamah di dalam mempelajari ilmu, dia tak beristiqamah di dalam mengamalkan ilmu, dia tidak beristiqamah di dalam berpesan-pesan kepada kebenaran, dia tak istiqamah, dia tak sabar, tak istiqamah, dia masih consider rugi lagi. Ini apa yang maksud Imam Syafi'i yang mana ulama terangkan. Bila Imam Syafi'i kata seandainya kalau Allah SWT tidak turunkan surah kecuali surah Al-Asr ini, maka telah mencukupi bagi mereka. Ini maksud Imam Syafi'i. Pasal dia menyeluruh, dia ada iman, ada ilmu, ada perintah untuk beriman, ada perintah untuk mempelajari ilmu, ada perintah untuk beramal, ada perintah untuk menyampaikan, berdakwah, mengajak kepada kebaikan, dan juga ada beriman untuk sabar juga. Jadi dia lengkap semua ni. Wallahu alam.
So how important is if we doing in the middle of our dakwah, then someone ask a question that we really don't know, should we try to explain our way out or we just say we don't know?
Just say we don't know. Kalau katakan orang tanya kita apa-apa masalah, perkara khususnya berkaitan dengan agama. Kalau berkaitan dengan dunia pun, kalau kita tak tahu pun, kita kena cakap apa? Tak tahu kan. Macam orang datang kat kita kan, orang cakap, excuse me, can you tell me where is Jurong? Kan? Kita tak tahu kan. Kita pula pandai-pandai, oh Jurong, you go over there. Padahal situ pergi Yunus. Kita pergi pandai-pandai. Dia makin sesat tak? Dia makin sesat. Jadi benda dunia pun kalau kita tak tahu pun, kita kena kata kita tak tahu kan. Apa lagi kalau benda tu agama, benda tu bab-bab agama, benda akhirat. Kita tak tahu, kita kata tak tahu. Kita jangan malu nak kata yang kita tidak tahu. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam pun dah ajar kepada kita kan, bila malaikat Jibril tanya kepada Rasulullah, fa akhbirni anis saah. Kan, malaikat Jibril tanya, khabarlah kepada aku bila hari kiamat. Nabi kata apa? Kan, orang yang bertanya tu, kan, orang yang ditanya tu tidak lebih tahu daripada orang yang bertanya. Dan sama juga bila dalam hadis yang sama juga, bila Nabi SAW tanyakan kepada Umar radhiyallahu anhu, kau tahu tak pemuda tu siapa yang datang tadi? Kan? Umar tak tahu kan? Umar kata apa? Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam. Kan? Allah dan Rasulnya lebih mengetahui. Jadi kita tak tahu. Dan untuk kita kata wallahu alam ni, sebenarnya dia nisful ijabah. Dia adalah separuh daripada jawapan. Untuk kita tahu yang, kalau kita kata, contoh orang tanya kita kan, kita kata apa? Allahu alam kan? Betul tak Allahu alam? Betul kan? Allah lebih mengetahui kan? Itu sebenarnya kita dah menjawab separuh daripada jawapan yang dia tanya tu. Kalau dia nak tahu lagi separuh tu, dia kena tanya orang tahu lah. Nanti dia dapat lagi separuh lah. Tapi apa yang dia tanya kita ni, kita kata betul. Kita kata Allah yang lebih maha mengetahui. Jadi, tapi jangan pandai-pandai kita pergi cakap dengan dia lagi. Pasal kita akan bawa apa? Mudarat. Kita akan bawa orang tu kepada kemudaratan. Wallahu a'lam. Dan kalau sekiranya juga nak tambah sikit, kalau perkara yang dia tanya tu satu perkara yang kita sepatutnya pun tahu, tapi kita tak tahu kan. Jadi kita kena buat apa? Kita kena belajar lah, ambil tahu. Aku pun tak tahu lah benda ni. Sebenarnya benda ni penting kan. Jadi kita kena buat apa? Kita kena belajar. Jangan pula nanti besok pun orang lain tanya kita cakap kita tak tahu juga, tak boleh. Jadi kita kena belajar. Kita kena equip kita berdiri lah. Especially kalau benda tu benda yang wajib atas kita tahu. Perkara-perkara fardu ain. Seperti wudu, solat, bab-bab yang mana yang benda-benda yang wajib atas kita. Kita kena belajar. Wallahu alam. So that's the reason why important is our intention lah. We have to understand that the effort of dakwah, kerja dakwah ni adalah perintah Allah. Dalilnya pun dalam surah Al-As juga. Wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Itu dalilnya. Ada banyak lagi dalil dalam Quran kan yang Allah SWT perintahkan kita dakwah. Dan Nabi pun, Allah SWT juga, Nabi pun kata baliru anni walau ayah. Sampaikanlah dariku walaupun satu ayat. Allah SWT juga berfirman kepada Nabi secara khusus. Secara umum kepada orang beriman lah. Qul hadhihi sabili ad'u ila Allah ala basiratin ana wa mani taba'ani subhanallah wa ma'ana minal musyrikin. Maka Allah berfirman, katakanlah wahai Muhammad, inilah jalanku. Aku menyeru manusia kepada Allah. Aku menyeru kepada Allah atas basirah, berdasarkan ilmu, berdasarkan yakin ilmu, hujah. Aku dan pengikut-pengikutku, kata Nabi. Maha suci Allah, sesungguhnya aku tidak tergolong di dalam golongan orang yang menduakan Allah. Jadi ni kerja dakwah ni adalah tanggungjawab kita. Cuma maksud dia apa? Itu kita kena betulkan maksud kita. Kalau kita buat kerja dakwah ni untuk betulkan orang ni, kita akan penat. Jadi kita buat kerja dakwah pertama untuk diri kita. Untuk diri kita. Dan sebagai manusia pun sebagai satu peringatan. Wadzakir fa inna dzikra tanfa'ul mu'minin. Dan tetaplah memberi peringatan. Sesungguhnya peringatan tu bermanfaat bagi orang-orang yang beriman. Lepas tu hari pun kita kongsikan pasal kapal kan. Kapal ada bahagian atas, ada bahagian bawah kan. Kalau katakan yang bahagian bawah tu nak air, sepatutnya dia kalau nak air dia kena bilang bahagian atas, pasal air ada dekat atas. Tapi oleh sebab niat dia baik, dia kata buat apa kita nak susahkan orang atas, kita buat lubang aja kat bahagian bawah ni. Jadi dia pun biar buat lubang kat bahagian bawah. Kalau dia buat lubang bahagian bawah, apa akan berlaku? Air akan masuk kan. Air masuk, apa akan berlaku dengan kapal tu? Kapal tu tenggelam. Ni Nu'man bin Bashir beritahu hadis ni. Tapi kalau orang atas tak cegah bahagian bawah, orang atas pun tenggelam sekali tak? Tenggelam sekali juga. Jadi kerja dakwah ni dia senang kata kerja para Nabi dan Rasulullah. Kita susah nak faham kerja ni. Kita faham kira sedikit sangat. Kerja dakwah ni kerja para Nabi dan Rasul. Itu pasal bila kita baca methodology of the prophets in calling towards Allah ni, kita kena faham. Kerja dakwah ni dia kira satu misi kita. Kalau profesi kita lain-lain. Ada orang dia IT, ada orang dia bawa Grab, ada orang dia barber. Kerja kita pun tak sama. Hatta kalau ustaz sekalipun, kalau dia mengajar. Mungkin tu dia punya profesi dia. Tapi misi dia bukan setakat dia mengajar, okey balik kelas, balik mengajar, habis tidak. Tapi dia ada punya misi. So that's the reason why kita kena azam lah, yang kita akan buat kerja dakwah ni sampai kita mati. Tapi dakwah berdasarkan ilmu. Dakwah berdasarkan ilmu. Kita tak boleh buat dakwah dengan kejahilan, tak boleh. Kalau kita buat dakwah dengan kejahilan, dia punya keburukan dia lebih banyak daripada dia manfaat. Okay. Baik. Yes.
Ustaz, ada orang komen, ask question.
Ada komen itu pun TikTok. In my one bukan? Apa?
They ask if kita dah dakwah our friends but then they still kecam kita, then we feel very sad. So the question asks, how should we go about? Like, should we be discouraged?
Jangan discourage. We don't feel discouraged. We just correct our intention only. And we have to, in order for us to really understand the dakwah, our first benda pertama yang menjadi rujukan kita adalah Al-Quran. Kita bacalah kisah-kisah para Nabi dan Rasul. Nuh AS, dia buat dakwah berapa lama? 1000 kurang 50 kan, 950 tahun Nuh AS buat dakwah. Dia pun tak give up, dia tetap buat. Pengikut dia berapa? Lebih kurang 83 hingga 85 orang aja. Tak give up. Nuh AS. Jadi kita sabar. Jadi yang penting kita dah sampaikan kebenaran. Kalau kita dah tak boleh lagi, dah tak mampu lagi kita nak sampaikan, kita doa. Lepas tu ada banyak lagi taktik macam tadi kan. Haji Rauf cerita kita kan, beri orang makan, ambil hati orang. Macam semalam pun sama. Katakan kita tiba-tiba kita nampak orang tu minum arak, kita pergi kat meja, kita buang kan. Sedangkan tu bukan cara dakwah yang sunnah. Nabi tak pecahkan berhala yang ada kat keliling Kaabah, tidak. Tapi apa Nabi SAW bikin? Nabi usahakan bagaimana berhala ni tak ada dalam hati-hati orang musyrikin. Usahakan tanamkan keyakinan supaya mereka yakin kepada Allah. Apa Nabi bikin? Nabi cakapkan kebesaran Allah. Nabi talk about the greatness of Allah. Jadi tu pasal da'i ni untuk cakap kebesaran Allah hari-hari, untuk cakap agama hari-hari adalah kita punya makanan. Itu makanan kita, makanan seorang da'i. Itu yang akan meningkatkan iman kita. Itu akan membetulkan yakin kita. Tapi kalau kita buat untuk orang dah tak dengar, kita give up tak? Kita give up kan? Jadi kita, alamak aku dah tak nak sampaikan lagi lah. Pasal niat kita tak betul. Niat kita salah. Jadi niat kita ni untuk diri aku. Contoh macam muazzin kan. Muazzin bila dia azan, kalau tak ada orang datang, pasti dia akan qomat, pasti dia akan solat. Kalau tak ada, dia dah azan, muazzin dah azan, tak ada orang solat dah, dia pun tinggalkan. Tak kan? Kalau tak ada, kita biasa kan pergi masjid yang mana tak ada, memang muazzin tu dia yang azan, dia yang qomat, dia yang imam Jadi bila jemaah datang, jemaah tengok, dia dah buat gini kadang bertahun-tahun tak ada orang datang. Tapi dia buat juga. Berarti dia istiqamah. Pasal apa? Pasal dakwah. The effort of dakwah. Dan dakwah ni dia punya salah satu perkara ni mengenai dakwah ni, dia kena dakwah dengan mujahadah. Dakwah bil mujahadah. Dakwah ni dia kena ada susah payah. Pasal dia ada banyak. Kadang-kadang ada orang dia buat dakwah, dia buat satu t-shirt, ramai-ramai satu grup, dia letak dakwah sambil berhibur. Kita tak kata salah, boleh. Kau boleh buat dakwah happy-happy. Itu pun dakwah juga bagus daripada tak buat kan. Tapi kita kena faham itu bukan the essence of dakwah. Essence of dakwah ni adalah susah payah, mujahadah. Kita kena utamakan diri kita dulu. Kita kena sacrificekan diri kita dulu. Pasal apa yang kita nak, macam mana dia dapat ucap la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Macam contoh tadi, for example, we live in Singapore. Singapore Darul Majmu'. Singapore ni Darul Majmu'. Pasal apa dia macam-macam campur. Kalau Johor Darul apa? Darul Ta'zim kan? Darul Ta'zim. Lepas tu semua ada Darul-Darul kan? Tapi Singapore Darul Majmu' dia panggil. Dia kira semua ada kat macam-macam berbilang bangsa, berbilang agama kat dalam kan. Singapore ni. Jadi dakwah kita ni, kita dakwah apa? Kita dakwah iman kepada orang-orang yang beriman. Kepada orang-orang yang beriman, kita cerita pasal iman. Tapi kepada orang Islam, kita ajak dia kepada Islam. Jadi macam mana nak ajak orang Islam kepada Islam? Yang paling senang kita amalkan Islam. Kita amalkan Islam, itu dah satu contoh. Berarti muamalah kita cari Islam, muasyarat kita cari Islam, akhlak kita cari Islam. Pasal untuk orang yang bukan Islam ni, kita solat, dia tak akan terkesan dengan solat kita. Dia kadang-kadang dia tak faham, dia rasa, leceh one day 5 times a day, dia rasa leceh kan. Kalau kita dakwah dia dengan puasa pun dia akan rasa, kena puasa tak. Tapi kita dakwah dengan kita punya akhlak, dengan muamalah kita macam tadi kan, contoh tekan lip, senyum, Kita buat dengan akhlak kita, dengan muamalah, dengan muasyarah kita, dengan akhlak kita. Jadi kita dakwah orang yang bukan Islam ni dengan kita tunjukkan apa tu Islam. Dakwah iman kepada orang yang beriman. Orang yang beriman macam kita ni, kita ceritakan pasal Allah, ceritakan pasal syurga, ceritakan pasal neraka. Baru iman kita makin meningkat, makin kuat. Tapi jangan lupa kita berdoa. Kita kena doa. Kalau kita dakwah kita tak doa, berarti ya ayyuhal mudaththir tapi tak ada ya ayyuhal muzammil. Tak sempurna dakwah kita. Jadi dua-dua perlu. Kadang-kadang kita give up pasal apa? Kita buat dakwah. Kita buat banyak effort in the day. Tapi malam kita tak buat effort kan. Jadi bila Allah uji kita, kita give up. Kita rasa penat, kita rasa letih. Tapi kalau kita buat usaha malam kita doa kan, kita sebut nama-nama orang yang kita jumpa, yang kita tak jumpa, yang akan kita jumpa hari ni. Kita nangis depan Allah. Kita muhasabah diri kita, hari kita buat apa dosa apa, kita nangis, kita akan lihat Allah SWT akan buka jalan untuk kita dakwah. Allah SWT akan letak kesan dalam kita punya cakap. Allah SWT akan letak kesan dalam kita punya perbuatan kita. Perbuatan kita akan ada kesan. Pasal kita ada hubungan dengan Allah. Tapi kalau tak ada hubungan dengan Allah, macam peluru kosong lah. Kita tembak, orang dengar daripada sini, pergi ke mana? Pergi ke sini. Pergi ke sini, keluar mana? Keluar sini. Tapi kalau kita doa, nangis depan Allah, kita pun islah diri, beriman amal, kita dakwah, masuk kat mana? Hati. Jadi usaha dakwah ni usaha atas hati. Usaha dakwah ni usaha atas hati. Banyak perkara juga, anak pun kira dah banyak perkara, anak pun lupa juga benda ni. Jadi anak pun dalam, so with this kind of gathering, actually we are actually strengthen each other, to remember each other. That's important for us to do the effort of dakwah. Kalau tidak, kita ilal ladina amanu wa amilus solihat, berhenti kat situ je. Kita tak ada watawasau bil haq, tak ada watawasau bis sabr. Jadi kita tak sempurna lah. Kita kena buat semua. Jadi insya-Allah semoga Allah SWT memberi taufik kepada anak, kepada antum semua, kepada mereka yang mengikuti amal ini secara online, insya-Allah. Kita berada di TriStar Complex. Siapa tu yang masih mengikuti, yang ada type Ustaz Faiz, saya request Haji Rauf buka kelas Quran. Ada yang kenal tak tahu siapa yang kenal semua Haji Rauf mungkin. Jadi saya jemput untuk datang hadir, insya-Allah. Kita ada di TriStar Complex setiap hari Rabu di TriStar Complex 970 Geylang Road, berhadapan dengan Wisma Geylang. Ala Kabul Fama. Jadi kita ada di sini, jadi kita jemputlah setiap hari Sabtu pukul 6 suku 6.30. Kita akan kumpul dekat TriStar Complex 0203. Kita akan mesyuarat, kita akan solat maghrib berjemaah di Masjid Khalid. Lepas tu kita akan balik, kita akan baca kitab yang berkaitan dengan dakwah, dengan akhlak. Lepas tu kita solat isyak berjemaah, kita balik, kita akan sambunglah kita punya muzakarah ini. Semoga Allah SWT memberi taufik kepada kita semua. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladziina aamanu wa 'amilus solihati wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ada lagi satu dia kata, Assalamualaikum Ustaz. Kirim salam Fikri. Ada yang kenal Fikri juga, masya-Allah. Barakallahu fikum Semua dah jadi popular sekarang semua kenal kita. Okey, baik, selamat, nanti kita jumpa lagi.